Okay, so yeah, welcome everyone for this session. It's still part of our Android series event. And today we'll be having Harun taking us through deploying apps to the Play Store. So as I had said earlier, my name is Clifford Doma. And yeah, I'm the GDSC leader here at Moi. And yeah, maybe Harun can introduce himself.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Harun Angereka. I'm an Android developer and also a Google developer expert for Android. I do a couple of things here and there. That is, one is helping organizing the Android 254 and Kotlin Kenya community. And I'm also an author at Wendalich and also a number of other things. Yeah, so that is all about me. Yes, and happy to give the session today.
Okay, thanks for that, Harun. So I think we'll just start.
Okay, so apologies for probably you'll hear some background noise because I'm in a public working space, but I hope it will not be that much of a bother. So let me share my screen. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, you can see.
Okay. Yes, so as Clifford was saying, our session today, I'm going to take you through deploying apps to the Play Store. That is, maybe in case you've never deployed your own app on Google Play Store, I'm going to simply walk you over through how to do it and also some of the things to maybe watch and some of the things to maybe prepare about. Yeah, so I'm Harun Wangereka, as I said. So you can reach me out. That is my handle at Wangereka Harun. So on maybe all handles, that is Telegram and also Twitter. So feel free to reach me out. Yeah, so as Android developers, it's a critical thing. Maybe after you've developed your applications from maybe start to finish, the other thing you need to do is make your app accessible to other users. And the way to do that is by maybe creating a Play Store account and also uploading that app to the Play Store. But before we maybe go to that, there is maybe usually a checklist that I usually have, and I usually love to share with developers on session I'm doing about maybe deploying apps to Play Store, which I'm going to maybe walk you over them. So in this session, just a step-by-step guide to maybe deploy apps to Play Store. As I said, I'll starting with the checklist and then go through over a demo on how to actually do that. And lastly, I'll highlight some of the things you need to do after you publish your apps on Play Store. So now I mentioned a checklist. So we have some things you have to do before you even upload your app to Play Store. This means getting your app ready and also preparing for some of the things that will be done after your app is ready. So in case I'm fast or in case you have any question in between, please feel free to maybe raise your hand or interrupt me and ask your question. So my number one thing that I usually add is analytics. So far we have Google Analytics and we also have Firebase Analytics. So this is a critical thing because it helps you kind of get the statistics of how your app is performing, both on Play Store and also how it is performing in terms of maybe does your app lag, does your app contain crashes, and also does your what are the screens that your users are using more, because you can have maybe some of the screens that users never visit and so on and so on. So this is a very critical steps and helps you in terms of maybe gaining or estimating how your app is faring on. So I usually recommend add analytics to your app that will be helpful to maybe debug and also maybe get some insights about the performance of your app and usage of your app. For example, on Firebase, once you like add analytics, you can even get the percentage for installs, uninstall, active users per days, and so on and so on. Depending on the data that you want, you can get these analytics. So before even publishing maybe any app for me, this is some analytics is a crucial thing that I have to add. Secondly, in maybe relation to Crashlytics, so at times crashes are unpreventable, even on maybe a live application, and it will be very bad. For example, you have, as seen on the screenshot, the app has crashed, and then you don't have like the error message. So you have to like add a crash reporting library. So this is very important for you, because once maybe someone, let's say someone is we are in Kenya, someone is in a different city and they report a crash, because you're not near them, you cannot tell them, let me see your device and maybe debug on your device. So adding like a crash reporting library helps you get those crash reports on your console without even having to maybe debug with the user's device and so on and so on. So we have the popular one, which is Firebase Crashlytics. I think I've used that extensively, and it's very good to have for your app. So this helps you debug maybe errors, they can be crashes, and also maybe non-fatal, maybe bugs, maybe let's say your app is not responding, or maybe some JSON has changed. So this library can be very useful for you to add. So it's another thing I usually make sure I have. And then next, I'm not sure if you've heard of maybe Android app bundles, but if you have not heard, it's a new publishing format. Google is shifting away from publishing APKs. So we have what we call app bundles. So they have the following benefits, like reducing app size. You can also deploy your apps on demand or instant. And also another thing, it manages multiple APKs for you. So what do I mean by multiple APKs? So previously, when you are deploying using APKs, so for example, you have a 32-bit and 64-bit device. So you had to deploy APKs for those two devices. But currently, when you're using Android app bundles, you will only upload one bundle, and then it will generate an APK depending on the device size. So it kind of manages that multiple APKs for you. Yeah, so if you're already not maybe using app bundles, please, you need to maybe shift to this. And actually from August this year, all new applications and updates are supposed to be using Android app bundles. So I guess it's kind of the new thing for publishing your apps. So I think in case you've not maybe interacted with the app bundles before, feel free to go dig deeper, because there is a lot to understand about it. And it was not maybe the focus of this session, because I was focusing on maybe uploading your app on PlayStore. Now, another thing in my checklist, we have what we call obfuscation. I hope I've spelled it correctly. So this is a feature where, how do you explain it? So you have written your maybe code in Java or in Kotlin. So we have, let's say, a class user. So once you deploy your application, there is what we call reverse engineering. And in case someone does a reverse engineering for your APK or app bundle, they can be able to maybe access your code as it is. So you have to prevent that, and you prevent it by what we call obfuscation. So this, what it does, it goes over through your code base, changing the names for classes, variables, and so on in a random way, in such a manner that even hackers or maybe someone trying to reverse engineer your app cannot maybe get what is happening in your app. This is like a useful security feature for you to maybe enable in your app. So, and how to enable it? So once you go to your Gradle file, I think we'll be seeing this in a few. Once you go to your Gradle file, we have this block, which is called build types, and we have one is a release and the other one is a debug. So for the release type, you enable two things. We have minify enabled. set it to true, and then shrink resources, you also set it to true, and then set the ProGuard file. So ProGuard files, because I mentioned obfuscation, so we have some classes, for example, the model classes, which are not supposed to be renamed, because once you rename them, whatever library you're using to maybe serialize the JSON response to maybe plain Java objects or data classes, it will not be able to find these classes. So you have to define some rules that maybe define how obfuscation will be done. We'll also have a look at it in code later on. But maybe just to summarize, this is how you maybe enable minify and also shrink of resources. By doing this, you're even able to like reduce your APK size by maybe half or so on. Because what maybe obfuscation does is it goes removing maybe dead code and also unused code, and also maybe shrinking all the resources that are in your application. Yeah, so this is a very necessary step from a security perspective and also from a perspective that you need to maybe reduce the APK size. So this is maybe something I consider very critical. So make sure you do this before you maybe go to releasing your application. And then, yeah, security, I cannot emphasize enough, but you have to make sure that users in your application or maybe the users of your application are not compromised, because nowadays people are very cautious on their maybe the apps they use and what kind of data they allow apps to use. So make sure you secure your app. There are various ways to securing your app. Maybe that we can have auth related features and so on and so on. But make sure you deep dive on securing your app so that you cannot compromise your users. Because, for example, if you found out that maybe, let's say, WhatsApp or another application, let's say Twitter and so on, are kind of vulnerable, you'll try to avoid such application. So ensure you test your application in a security kind of manner. And then we have one thing. So we have profiler. I'm going to show this also. So profiler helps you to maybe analyze your performance of your application from maybe memory usage, network, and also we have memory, network, and also what we call. So I think those are the major one. I'll also show you the other two on the profiler, but this is a helpful tool in case you want to debug like the performance of your application or an APK, because at times you will get maybe feedback from users that your application is slow, but you don't know exactly how to maybe debug these issues. So profiler is one of these tools that can help you identify some of the maybe memory bottlenecks for your apps, and also sections that use maybe a lot of network or memory and so on and so on. I'm going to show you the profiler in case you've not seen it, but it's a very useful tool. So coupling profiler with also analytics, it can be able to help you identify some of the performance issues on your application. So there is another thing when you're developing applications. So it is maybe common to fall in this pit of developing maybe in one language. For example, if you're developing your app for Nigerian users, it's maybe common to maybe make your application just support that region. But at times, it's very critical to make sure that your application supports a number of languages, and also you have those translations in place, because, for example, we have people who prefer Spanish. So in case there is such a user and you have not supported such, it is kind of a, what do I call it, demotivating factor. So someone will just install your application and then see, I cannot set the language to Spanish. So they'll just maybe uninstall it, and that way you'll lose users. So to maybe prevent such things, make sure that your app support a number of languages. And also we have other things like right to left layout. Maybe, for example, for those in Arabic countries, you have to maybe ensure that your app is maybe designed for maybe such things. So this is a very nice to have thing, which you have to ensure maybe your app does, or maybe your app supports many languages, right to left, and so on and so on. Yeah, so going on, there is another topic that maybe you have been following of late on maybe some of these Android announcements and so on. There is this thing called accessibility. That is making sure that your app is accessible to different people, or people who are gifted differently. That is maybe, for example, on YouTube, we have this thing called closed captions in every video. So you have to make sure that your app is accessible to all users, because as I said, people are maybe kind of gifted differently. So you have to make sure that your app is accessible. And this is a very serious issue in case you're targeting maybe outside Africa, or maybe European markets and also US markets. You can even be sued in case your app does not support like accessibility. For example, can someone turn the talkback option and then be able to use your app like from end to end? So this is something that you have to maybe be keen on. And also even the Android Studio gives you such warnings in case you have not maybe, for example, we have an image and you have not set the content description, it will give you accessibility warnings. So this is a topic you have to be keen on, and also make sure that your app is on the right track in terms of accessibility to prevent maybe issues and making your app usable to maybe a wide variety of users. And then, yeah, so that is maybe what I had on maybe my checklist, and some of the things I feel they are very important. So I'm not sure if we have any question before I go to maybe a demo where we'll just create a new application on PlayStore and then walk everyone over the steps, maybe some of the things you should look on the PlayStore. Do you have any question, or was I too fast?
Yeah, so anyone can unmute and ask a question, or you can post it in the chat section.
Okay. Let me share my Android Studio. You can see my Android Studio.
Yes, you can see it, Aaron.
Yeah, so I'm going to use an application that we were doing a demo recently. So this is being developed by the likes of Charles and Theophilus and other people. So I hope they'll give me the permission to do this, because I don't have another application to kind of upload right now. So you can watch on the chat, Clifford. In case there is a question, feel free to ask.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, we have these build type blocks. It's on maybe the app level Gradle file, where you specify your release build and also the debug. And as I mentioned, we have the minify enabled and also shrink resources set to true. So this one does the obfuscation, and then this one shrinks, as the word says. You just kind of shrink or minimize your resources. So the resources can be maybe images, or maybe whatever resources that are in this kind of structure of your application. Yeah, so these two simply reduce like your app size to kind of half, and are very what do I say, they are critical of you having in a release build, because you don't want a situation where someone can access your APK, reverse engineer it, and then get the whole code base. For example, we have applications such as maybe Twitter. So in case someone does a reverse engineering and maybe gets the whole code base for Twitter, you can imagine how devastating it can be and the effect it can cause, because anyone can get access to your application and maybe see what you're doing, and also maybe deploy or maybe publish a similar application without even much hassle. So you have to enable these two to prevent such scenarios. And then I was mentioning of ProGuard. So these are just a set of rules that maybe, as I have said, what maybe obfuscation does, it renames your classes, variables, and so on. So we have some classes you don't want to rename. So for example, these are the model classes, because as I mentioned, you have a class user fetching from maybe an online server or an API. So normally, okay, Clifford, go ahead.
Yes, could you increase the font of the IDE?
Okay, font size. This is usually a hassle. Is it much better?
Yes, it's much better.
Yeah, so I was explaining. So we have, you want to fetch maybe user from maybe an API, and yeah, the user has a name, maybe phone number, and so on and so on. So normally what we do in Android, you have like an API, you also have like a serialization library, be it JSON, we have Moshi, and we also have the default, the new one, the new kid in the block, Kotlin serialization library. So these libraries usually depend on kind of these names and these class names to deserialize your maybe JSON to a data class, or maybe in case you're in Java to a plain Java object. So these classes cannot be renamed, or you cannot afford having them renamed. Otherwise, once they are renamed, you'll have crashes on your release build. So this is what this line 26 does. You just say keep class and then specify the model class. So all the classes inside this package will not be renamed. And so the funny thing with maybe ProGuard, once you get to maybe use ProGuard, you'll minimize the number of libraries you use in your application because of the different rules you have to add, or maybe because of the different edge cases you have to cover. But in case you have libraries, you have to go to their README page and check if they have any specific ProGuard rules that you need to add. So these other ones are just maybe ProGuard rules for a number of libraries. For example, this is for the navigation component, and this one is for data binding. And then, yes, so we have that ProGuard rule. I hope maybe everyone understands what it does. So those were maybe some of the few things I needed to maybe explain. And then, so let me show you how to probably build a bundle. You come to this build here and then generate a signed bundle or APK. So before maybe I go ahead, PlayStore requires you to kind of sign your application. By signing, what do I mean? It's kind of, you are signing it a digital certificate or kind of digital key that will be used to identify your app over the Play Store. So you cannot upload any bundle, or let's say a debug bundle or a debug APK on Play Store. You have to sign it with your key store. So I'll go next. And then I already have like this key store and password's already set, but in case you need a new one, you can just come here, create a new key store, set your location. So a key store, you have to maybe, that is the location, password, and then alias, and then a bit of maybe about the organization that you are deploying the app for. So for now, I'll just keep this because I've already done that. So this key store is very maybe necessary for you to identify your app on the Play Store. And previously, maybe just like 2 years ago, we had scenarios where in case you lose your key store, you will not be able to update your application. But currently, the new way in Google Play Store, we have something called Android app signing, where once you sign your application, Google also signs it. So you have like 2 key stores on Play Store. And once you maybe lose your maybe local one, you can maybe download them on the Play Store. We are going to maybe see that also. So, and then you just click on next and then select your release or debug, but now we need a release build, and then finish. So as it builds, this is the profile I was mentioning. So it's a tab here. So once you click like maybe attach debugger to a process, it will show you a number of vitals. So I'm going to let that process finish and then open a tab. Yeah, so as you can see, I already have like a signed bundle, which I'm going to upload to PlayStore. So let me also run the application and then show you the profile a bit. And then as I'm waiting for the profiler, I'm going to switch to PlayStore. So you need to have like a PlayStore account. It's usually a one-off fee of $25. So, and it's a worthwhile investment for you as an Android developer because it's a one-time fee. You don't have to keep on buying that account or maybe purchasing again. Once you buy one time, it's that. So I'm going to go to this and then, so you can see this is the dashboard, all the applications, and then I need to create a new application. And then there is this form where you specify the details. I'm going to give it a name. So, and then select the language. So by default, I'll use English. And then you have to specify whether your app is a game or an application. So I'll select application, and then another thing you have to maybe specify, is it a free or paid application? And then this, I'll just like a bit of confirmation. Language, okay. And then yes, you can create the application. Yeah, so this is how PlayStore looks for a new application. So you can start testing, you can explore a bit of things, but I'll start maybe the very first place. So set up your app. Yeah, so there is this place called set up your app. And nowadays, so with the new PlayStore console, it kind of summarizes everything for you in a way that you know these are the tasks I need to probably update to create a new app on the Play Store. So I'm going to click view tasks. So as you can see, we have access, content rating, target audience, all these steps. So these are some of the things you need to maybe fill in order for your app to be live on Play Store. And I'm going to maybe go them one by one as I explain them. Let me see. So the application has run. So this is how it looks. And I'm going to switch over to Android Studio and then attach a debugger to that application. Yes, so I was explaining, so the profiler shows you this is the CPU usage, one, and then memory usage, and then network, and then energy. So these are key factors maybe for you to analyze the performance of your application. Some of these graphs might take you time to maybe analyze what does it mean? What does it mean when you have such a curve and so on and so on. But so once you get to know it, it can be helpful to probably knowing some of the vitals of the application. So this is the profile a bit. I'm going to probably now switch over to Play Store, where we continue with our deployment. So the first thing you have to fill is the app access. So app access, mostly, we have applications that require credentials for you to log in. So for the Play Store team, maybe to fully review your app, in case your application needs like special access, like someone cannot access your application before logging in, you have to provide those instructions. So, or in case your application does not require any special access, you can just tick the first option. For now, I'll tick this and then show you how to maybe add an instruction. So let's say this is login. And then let's say username is test and then password is secret. So with this, you're just providing the instruction that someone needs to access your application for the very first time. This might be tricky in case you're dealing with financial application that do not have test account. So you might need to maybe find what we call an alternative to maybe provide this sort of instruction. So I'll just click on apply and then click on save. So, and once you go back, you can see PlayStore indicates that you have completed 1 out of 9 steps. So that is the good thing with the new PlayStore console. It indicates, because previously you had a bunch of forms, you don't even know which form you have not filled and which form you filled. I'll go to the next one, which is content rating. So content rating is simply where you get a number of questions regarding to your application to help determine the rating of this application. It's a sort of questionnaire-ish. I think you've seen this sort of ratings on many applications on the Play Store, but I'll start this questionnaire to show you how. The first thing you need to provide is an email where people can reach out in case they need to maybe contact the developer or maybe the company doing the application. The next thing, you need to define a category. So we have these categories: entertainment, game, and so on and so on. So you have to read the description and see which category does your app fall into. So for now, I'll choose that one and then go to next. So clicking on next, we have this maybe questionnaire. We have violence. So can your app contain violent material? You say no. And then can your app contain any sexual material or nudity? And then say no. Then language, no. Does your app contain maybe things like drug and substance abuse? No. And so most of these will answer no, but you have to be keen on these questions because they can be trivial. So does the app natively allow users to interact? So no, and then no, and then no. And then you can click on save. And then when you click on next, so you can see your app has been rated now, all ages, and then, so this is the rating that will be applied for your application. So for most application, I think you've seen maybe rated 3+, and then submit. So for maybe this questionnaire, you can always start a new questionnaire in case you feel like the previous one that you did is kind of wrong or does not maybe align to what your application does in the current moment. And yes, we have step 2 out of 9 complete. The next one is the target audience. But before target audience, you have to maybe specify, does your app contain ads? So for now, the app does not contain ads. So I'll just say no and then proceed. So in case your application is using things like AdMob to display ads, you have to also answer this. And then for ads, it's a special case. You have to handle a bit of scenarios, but for now, I'm just going to say no. And then I'll go back. So this is a form about maybe the contents of your application. It's very critical because some of these things you feel here can maybe make your application maybe be pulled down in case you have not complied to maybe PlayStore policies. So I'll start here by specifying for your application, that is once you're deploying new apps to PlayStore, you have to have some sort of privacy policy, which guides maybe how you use data inside the application and maybe some of the terms and conditions inside your application. So you have to provide this. Otherwise, your app can be pulled down in case you don't have like a privacy policy. So be very keen when uploading apps to the Play Store because you need like a privacy policy. So for now, I'll just use this sample link. HTTPS. So let me see on how to get a link. So I'll just copy this, but please once you are doing your deployment, don't add a random URL because as I mentioned, your app can be pulled from Play Store by the Google team or even make your account to be suspended. So after we filled the privacy policy, there is another critical bit that you have to fill, which is called target audience. And in case your application targets maybe age 18 and below, Play Store has a bit of maybe restrictions, which you have to make sure you adhere to, because you don't want to see maybe, as from the questionnaire you are seeing, your application has to be very maybe, if in case you're targeting 18 and below, your application has to be safe for maybe that age bracket. So that's why you have to probably be very keen. We have a whole section on the policy section about family and apps targeted for people below the age of 18. So I have to say my app target 18 and above. And then, as I said, the Google team will review what your application has. So you have to also answer, does your application unintentionally appeal to children? So I'll say no, but you have to be very keen. If the Google team maybe disagrees on this, you can't be able to publish an update to your application as they are mentioning here. And then click on next. And then, yeah, that is a summary. And question? Okay, let me proceed. And then we have special questionnaires for maybe news application. And then I have so in case your app is a news application, you have to say yes and then provide some bit of information. Now our application is not a news application. Coming back, I also have to, this was introduced last year for applications that are contact tracing or maybe about COVID information.
Yes, yes. I think someone was to mute his mic. If you could just mute.
So done.
Yeah, you can continue.
So am I clear, or do we have questions so far?
So far, no question.
Okay. So you have to fill this form also. So our application is not a COVID-19 application, so I have to click that and save. And then we have this data safety. So this is another critical area you have to be keen on. especially if you're collecting any data from your application, because we have, as maybe some of you might be aware, we have things like GDPR, which is not maybe strictly enforced in Africa, but outside Africa, it's a thing. So you have to come and fill this data safety form. It was introduced like 2 months ago. So for those who have maybe have apps in the Play Store, you might have seen emails telling you to fill this data form. So again, does your app collect or share any required user data types? So I'll say no. And then if you say no, you don't have additional question to answer. But if you say yes, you also have to maybe provide extra information. As you're collecting this data, is it encrypted or do you just send it the way it is? And also, do you also provide means maybe for users to delete data? Because one of the things about GDPR is maybe specifying a way in case someone is wanting to maybe exit your application, you have to specify a way for them to completely delete their data. So that is very in line with GDPR. So for now, I'm going to say no and then click on next and then save that one. And then, so once on the app content, we have privacy policy, ads, and then access, content tracking. All of them are ticked by this green here. And then I think on app content, that is complete. So if we go back, so let me find a way to go back here. So it's challenging. So I'll go to this DSC mode. And then, as you can see, we have 8 out of 10 steps complete. This is a good thing with the new console. At least it shows you have filled all these things. And then next one, we have the app category. So this is what we did on the beginning, but you have to do it again. Select category. So probably, let's say events. So these categories, maybe you can select to whichever category your app maybe belongs to. And then we have an email address. And then, yeah, you can provide your phone number and then website and so on and so on. And then save. And then, so I'll go back here. And then, so we are at 9 out of 10. And then the last one is where you set up details about your store listing. So store listing, so this is what people see on once they land on the Play Store page of your application. So most of these things are maybe screenshots, descriptions, and then app icon. So short description, I'm going to say maybe yes, Simon. Long description. Yes, so that is so most of this maybe wordings and maybe screenshots are provided by your, maybe if in case you have a dedicated design team, you can do that. But in case you don't have, they have guidelines like maybe ensuring your icon is a PNG or JPEG up to 1 MB and 512 by 512 in size. I'm going to upload one. I hope I have a good one. Yes, so I'm going to use that one. Yes, and then we have a feature graphic, which is once you go to Play Store, we have a kind of banner at the very behind of your application. So this is where you upload that banner. Again, they have specified the dimensions. It has to be 1024 by 500. So I'm using, I already have these images just in place so that maybe we cannot maybe start creating them all over again. And then screenshots. So you have to upload also screenshots. And you have to upload screenshots for your application. And you have to be keen because screenshots are like there are some people, if they look at the screenshots of your application, they can either go away or maybe install your application. So you have to be very keen on the screenshot that you have. So I'm going to use some of the screenshots I had previously. Hopefully I can get. So we're at November. So yes, so I'll just use these ones for the same application I was mentioning here, and then upload them here. So you have to upload at least, yeah, so we have those two. And then for screenshots, you have to take maybe screenshots even for your app in a 7-inch tablet and also on a 10-inch tablet. This is because the PlayStore team also want to see whether your app is responsive on different device sizes. So you have to make sure you upload these screenshots too. I had one. So I'm just going to probably upload them here. And then also upload for the 7-inch. So this is the screenshot bit. And then, yes, so additionally, in case you have like a promo video for your application, you can also add a video. This is optional, but it's a nice to have feature in case you maybe have some sort of maybe promo video for your application. And then with that, you can just save. And then I'll go to the same one and then see. So release your app new tasks. So yes, so and once you're done, you can see that maybe set of tasks are done. And now the very last thing maybe I want to dive into is maybe creating a release or maybe uploading your app bundle to Play Store. Because as I said, so that was the very first bit you do is maybe creating those maybe store listing, setting up content, privacy policies, and so on and so on. So that step you do it only once in every new application. So once you're done, you do not need to kind of do it again. And as you've seen, I've done it in maybe like 20 minutes or so. Maybe for your first time, it can be maybe hard juggling in between, but as I said, with the new Play Store console, things are a bit easier and you don't have to maybe stress about it because it shows you the progress. And then maybe I'm going to cover a bit of maybe uploading your now app bundle. Do we have any questions so far on chat, or maybe anyone has a question before I go to the last bit? Okay, so I'll take silence as a no. So on Play Store, we have 4 tracks for maybe releasing your app bundle. We have one, the production. So on the production track, this is where you upload your production application. This is the one visible to maybe people who want to use your application. And once they go to your Play Store, search your app, they'll see the one on the production track. But before the production track, Play Store gives you another different set of tracks to maybe help you deploy your application and also test your application over a number of users. I'll start with the very bottom one, which is called internal testing. So internal testing, you might need to maybe test your app within maybe your company, maybe a group of at most 100 developers or 100 stakeholders. So this is where you begin. So this will only be available to a number of people inside your company, and you have to like add their emails inside this track for them to access the application. After internal testing, you go to a closed testing. So this is kind of a larger one from maybe internal testing, but it's also limited to a number of people who have the link and also have their emails added to the testing track. And then maybe after close testing, you go to like an open testing where you open your application to a number of larger people to test your application, but still they have to you have to share the links or add them to the testing tracks. So I'll begin with this internal testing, which you use mostly in case maybe you want people to test your application. So inside this testing, you come here, create a new release. And as I said, you have to upload your bundle. You see, you no longer have like APK and so on and so on. It's just uploading your bundle. And then I'll come here and then upload. I'll go to the folder where my project is, and then it is inside the app, and then the release. And then this is the release bundle that we've created just like moments ago. And then I'll select it. So as it uploads, so let's wait for the, yes, so as you can see, this package already exists, so we cannot reuse it. So let me just change it here to, let's say, bsc.mod, and then do a sync. So once we do a sync, and then I'll build the bundle again, and then we'll upload it to PlayStore. Yeah, so that is complete. In case you forgot, I'll walk over maybe building the app bundle again. So we come to the build here, and then generate a signed bundle, and then click next, then finish. So I know we are slightly off time, but this is the very last part of maybe releasing your app to Play Store. So do we have any question as we wait for Gradle to maybe sync?
So anyone can unmute and just ask a question.
Yes, so at times Gradle can take long. But yes, so we have that, and then so let us just wait. Yes, but as it builds, so after your app is live on Play Store, it has already completed. So let us re-upload again. And also before you upload, make sure that your maybe app ID is correct, or maybe the package name is correct, because once you upload it, you can never upload an application with a different package name inside the same application. Yes, I can see AppsLab has raised the hand.
Yeah, so Aaron, there's
Yes.
a question. Someone's asking, like, how do you create a privacy policy?
Pardon?
How do you create a privacy policy?
How do I create a? I cannot hear that.
Privacy policy. Privacy policy.
Oh, okay. I'll maybe show you a sample. We have so many different privacy policy generators. I'll show you some of them. So we've already uploaded our bundle, and you can see it gets the details from maybe version name and then release notes. These are some, so for example, if you're deploying an update to this application, you can specify what's new in the application and so on and so on. So I can see a couple of hands raised. So said, I'll shorten your name. Hope I've mentioned it correctly. I've seen your hand raised. Do you have a question? Okay. So these are maybe the details, and then there was one thing I was telling you. We have app signing by Google, so that in case you lose your key store, the one you send your application in, you can always retrieve it. So you've already been signing into that program, so which is very helpful. Make sure you always sign up for that. And then you can save this. And then from here, this is just like an overview. So this is your API levels. This is the minimum API level. And then we have the target SDK. So this is 30. And the recommended one, always make sure you target the latest one, because Google also have policies regarding the target SDK. So in case you targeting a lower version, you'll find numerous warning or maybe numerous emails telling you to update your target SDK. And then after that, okay, done with.
Okay, my question is relating to build numbers. Do you like manually do them, or do you have maybe a way of automatically incrementing the number? And number two, I have a problem with I have clients who are based in remote regions. I find sometimes that it takes some time before they update the app. Is there a way that I can, I don't know, invalidate previous versions so that they get the latest ones, or what would you advise me to handle such a thing?
Okay, so the very first one, regarding maybe build numbers, I think it was where this one, this is the version name, and then we have the version code, which you have to increase. I think they are right here. We have this version code and version name. So if I need to deploy an update to PlayStore, I need to increase it to probably 2, and then version name, not necessarily, but recommended to maybe 1.02. So for the very first time, you have to do it manually, but for consequent times, I think this is maybe probably a talk maybe that can follow up. You can have a sort of CI pipeline where you do the increments there. Once maybe you need to do like a release to Play Store, and then once maybe, okay, currently what we have, maybe I'm used to, is probably you increase the version code, and then in your CI, maybe that is continuous integration environment, it triggers a build, which maybe triggers a release on Play Store with that new version code. So that is maybe how I'm used to. There's a number of maybe automation you can do on that sector, but you have to find a way to trigger a release. Maybe you can have a master branch inside your Git, or maybe a develop branch. So you can set rules. Maybe let's say when someone merges a PR to maybe master, trigger a release, or maybe trigger a build, which increases the version name and so on and so on. So I think that is maybe just a short answer. but maybe it's something maybe relating to CI and how you set up maybe after you deploy your first application to PlayStore. So I think it's a follow-up. I hope I've maybe provided much insights.
Yeah, I also wanted you to mention about semantic versioning, because maybe if we have most of us are college students, they may want to understand, how do I go from version 1 to 1? Is it my next version, is it going to be 1.0.1 or 1.1.0? So just to mention, this is not a question. So starting from the right, sorry. Oh, let me just start from the left. The 1 is the major version, 0.0, that is the minor. And then the last one is, what is it called, Harun?
So this one,
1.0.0, how do you name them? So basically the last one is a patch. If you do maybe a very minor change to your system, you will only increment the rightmost value. Then if you maybe build a new feature, that may come under 1.1. And if you maybe change the APIs and basically something that may be a breaking change, then you'll go to version 2.0. So that's just to mention. So my second question I would like Harun to address.
Okay, thank you so much for maybe clarifying about that semantic versioning bit. I think it's maybe important for people to know how to maybe version this, so that you cannot find yourself, you have like version 20 of your application in just 2 releases. So the second question, can you repeat the question again?
The app that I'm working on is, I've been working on for a while, and it has, it's for an NGO, so it has users who are based in very remote regions. Sometimes especially when I started out, like there are some mistakes that I did initially, so I need to patch things up so that they get the latest version. And this is a very important app because it's used for like their day-to-day work. So I need them to get the latest version as soon as possible. There's a time I went and saw someone, I was doing a field trip and I went and saw someone who is like more than like, I don't know, like more than 10 versions behind, or more than 6 months behind in terms of the app. So is there a way I can invalidate maybe a bill or something like that, so that they are forced to download the latest one?
Yes. So once you are maybe creating a release, maybe I'll show you probably from an app. I'll finish this and then go ahead and answer that question. So, and then you can start rollout to internal testing, and then your app will be available to, so this is a release. This is the first one we have done. So for your very first application, it has the version code, and then you can also promote release to the other tracks that I was mentioning. We have the open testing, closed testing, and then production one, but we are not going to do that. But it's the same process, nothing maybe much complex there. But you have this testers tab where you specify your testers. So you can come here and then create another email list. And then here is where you add maybe your testers. And then once you do that, you can save changes and then create this list. So this is not a valid email. You can say have a warning, but I'll show you from this group here. So you can see we have those emails, and then, yeah. So once you click like this one, only people inside this testing group will be able to access your application via this link. You can see here we have how testers join your application, and then we have this link. So once you give someone this link, only when they are added to this testing group will they be able to access your application, hence the name, internal testing. And then I'll go to maybe the question Danvik is asking via another application, which has a number of releases. So for example, if we go to production, is it in production? No, that one does not have a production release. So I'll go to probably 19. So once you kind of create a release, you can disable previous maybe APKs. So, or let me see here. So there is an option to probably, once you're updating, I think you cannot see it right now, but there is an option to discontinue the previous maybe releases there once you're uploading a new one. As you can see, so we have 1.11 and then we have, at times it's hard to maybe see this. So show release history. Yeah, so depending on this, maybe the release, you can disable maybe this one, and that one on PlayStore once you are creating maybe a new release. And also another way maybe to help you, we have some PlayStore libraries like in-app update or maybe PlayStore in-app update. I'm not sure if that's the correct name, where you can trigger maybe updates from your app, which is maybe provides a much better experience. So if you check maybe someone has maybe an app which is maybe below a version that you don't need to support, you can maybe check that and maybe tell them, hey, you need to update your application. But there is a way to maybe discontinue these releases. I'm not sure. Currently, I know that I cannot be able to find it on top of mine. But once you're creating a release, you can always disable bundles for the previous releases. That is something I've seen there. I hope that kind of answers you. And yes, I think if we go back to our DSC MOI application, you can see we have that package name and then it is in internal testing and then in review. So you can view the application. And I think that is the whole thing maybe about deploying your first application. I rushed through it, but I think that gives you a list of how to maybe deploy. So the key thing I mentioned, the playlist, the checklist, and then some of the things you need to maybe look out for, some of the policies and some of the things you need to maybe watch out. So I'll open this to maybe questions in case there is any, as I also stop sharing my screen and locating that privacy policy maybe generator sample. So Clifford, over to you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that insightful session. So anyone with a question, you can just unmute and ask. It's an open session. So yeah, you can seek clarification on wherever you need it.
I hope I wasn't too rushy on the session.
No. Personally, I feel you were just okay.
Just a comment.
Yeah, you can just make a comment.
So I would like to insist that if you're publishing an app, as Harun mentioned, it's very important to have Crashlytics, especially Crashlytics installed, because once you push your app, it's not like a website where you can just update and someone will like refresh and get a new one. And remember, in Kenya, there's the issue of bundles. Someone doesn't want to update the app because of bundles. So you may not know problems that the user is facing unless you have a crash reporting library installed into your app. That's the first thing. Even like you're testing the first app, make sure you have it so that in case anything crashes, since the worst case scenario is someone uninstalls your app or gives you bad reviews on the Play Store. So you just have to install it first so that there are issues that someone may not like report to you. Maybe they don't know how to report or they don't want to kuchomea picha by like rating your app badly or something like that or giving feedback. So if you have there are so many libraries like Sentry, Firebase, Crashlytics, and so on. So make sure you have that installed. When you crash, like when your app even has some minor bugs, which may not even crash on the user, but something is happening in the background that you don't know what's happening, but it's an error occurring, you are able to fix even before user start complaining and push an update. So that's just from my experience.
Yes, thank you, Danvik, for emphasizing on the Crashlytics part. I cannot emphasize it enough, but it's very critical. So I've shared maybe a privacy policy generator done by a friend of mine called Nishant. So you can, in case you don't have maybe a lawyer, as Danvik was mentioning, you can just go through that and maybe use it to quickly generate your privacy policy. And lastly, I'll also maybe like to emphasize on maybe what we call Google Play Store policies. Please be keen on that. And once you maybe have your Play Store account, I think it's a worthwhile investment for maybe an Android developer. Once you have your Play Store account, be very keen on the Play Store policies because they are very keen. Because one, you can get your app suspended or removed from Play Store. And after that, in case maybe they see you are not very keen enough, they can even ban your account, or maybe, and once your account is banned, it has maybe a trickle-down effect. So for example, for me, as you can see, I have a bunch of maybe other Play Store accounts I manage. So in case one is banned, there is this thing called associated account. You can have even all other Play Store accounts banned and so on, and even lose access to all your apps in that account. And that is very devastating. In case you had an application with over 1 million downloads, you lose that and you cannot even claim because the process is a bit rigid. So please, one thing I usually maybe emphasize, please go read those Play Store policies. I've highlighted some of them regarding maybe children, data, and data is a big thing nowadays. In case you're even fetching contacts or maybe accessing contacts, you have to tell them, I'm accessing your contacts to do XYZ, and this is how I store your contacts and so on and so on, especially for GDPR purposes.
And maybe just to ask Aaron, how long does it take for them to review like the application?
So I don't have like it can take 2 days, it can take 2 weeks, it can take 2 months. So especially with COVID times, it takes long, but there is no definite timeline for maybe for you to maybe for the time to review your application.
Okay, so anyone with any question, you can just ask. Okay, so it seems there are no questions. So I think that's the end of the session. Thank you so much, Harun, for like teaching us how to deploy and sharing with us your experience and knowledge. And thank you to everyone for attending this session, for just making time to come and learn with all of us. And yeah, it's been a great opportunity and a great time with all of you. Maybe Harun, any last words?
Yeah, so my closing shot will be, I know I've done maybe this kind of sessions maybe previously before, and it gets easier with time. So by the time, in case you've not maybe gotten a thing, probably just have the whole wrap of thing. And then once you do your own deployment, you'll be able to understand some of these things even much better. Yeah, so my maybe key thing is go practice. In case I just maybe went over 3 things in a rush because we have 1 hour to maybe do everything. And I think what I can tell you, the more you do these deployments, the more you even do like a press release in 20 minutes. It's not easy to do like your first time in 20 minutes, like the way we've done, but it gets easier with time. And it's something maybe as a developer, because you'll find in most companies you have maybe someone doing the deployments and you are only concerned with maybe the release part, but I emphasize know these processes also, because you have to know maybe these policies and some of the things to maybe be careful about, so that even when you're developing, you can know these things by your hand. Because if you've never deployed to PlayStore, you not know about bundles, you not know about maybe target SDK having to be the highest available, and so on and so on. And thank you so much for maybe staying up to this and listening to the session. In case you have any question, feel free to reach out to me and I'll answer or maybe guide you to the right resources. Thank you, everyone.
So I've shared a link in the chat for the Android series group. It's a WhatsApp group. You can have access to like all the trainers who are there. And whenever you are stuck, you can always like ask for help. And yeah, everyone is willing to help you there. So thank you all for attending this session, and goodbye. Have a lovely evening or day or night, wherever you are. Thank you.
Bye.